Hi, thanks for tuning in again. I appreciate your watching these videos. Hope you're getting something out of them. You probably know my name is Steve. I play the trumpet. I've been doing so for many decades now. And we're working on number 22 in Charlie Porter's Lyrical Etudes. This is in D minor. Now, I just want to give another shout out to Charlie. The more I play these, the more I like them, and the reason why I like them is because they're deceptively challenging to refinement of your music interpretation skills and also your trumpet playing skills. So I find them to be very stimulating for my own playing. And that's one reason why I'm doing them, especially trying to record them because, well, to be honest, I have a client coming in a few minutes, and I don't have a lot of time to spend on these. So I'm kind of working in front of you, as it were, and I hope you find that beneficial. I'm going to try and do a decent performance of this, and then we'll get into some of the details. And again, what I like about these is there's almost infinite worlds to be explored in terms of interpretation and the skills required to perform the music. So here we go. Con silencio e con forza. Look it up. Here we go. So I know that most trumpet players are interested in gaining the skills they need to play. I was just working with a new student yesterday, an adult player who's been playing for a long time, and he's a jazz improvisational artist. And he said he recognized that he'd been playing music for all these years, but never really had sufficient skills to play the music the way he was imagining it. So this leads me to the first point. Everything comes from your musical imagination. You may or may not be able to execute what you hear, and for me, that's the driver for my technique. So when I look at these, Charlie gives a lot of directions, and I can strongly recommend these books and say read the instructions that he provides. They give you some specific things to pay attention to, and that's a good place to start. Even the markings that I read at the beginning, con silencio, what does that mean? And I couldn't make sense out of this. It says sempre legato, okay, it's forte, con forza, it's with strength, with power. But con silencio, I couldn't quite figure it out. So I look up the word, I try and understand it. Sometimes it can mean an outburst. It can mean the closest thing that touched me was a sense of momentum. And that seemed to work for me. Now, that sounds technical, but what I'm actually trying to get at here is, what is the character that I'm portraying? And that's contained in the melodic line, it's contained in the implied harmonies, it's contained in everything every ingredient of the music as I'm looking at it on the page and hearing it in my mind, what does it say to me? Now, I said this over and over again, and I realize that some people have an extremely active and fertile musical imagination, and others don't. And also that our musical imaginations are quite personal, and they can be rather quirky and idiosyncratic, and not necessarily aligned with the mainstream of what most people think is good taste. So we need to give ourselves freedom to explore, and we need to keep our ears on great examples. So again, I'll be honest with you, I think I've only listened to one of the concert etudes in Charlie's performances. And the reason is I don't want to be influenced by Charlie's interpretation, which sounds kind of funny because he's the composer. But this is the point. I'm playing it for you. You will be automatically influenced by my interpretation. But what I really want to help you with, if you're interested, is, well, how do I interpret these things? So I'll sum it up very simply. I'm trying to be touched by the character of the music, or I should say characters, because in this piece we have two different characters. So we have that first thing at the beginning. And I need to find a tempo. So what is the tempo? It says 110. I'll give you a little trick. So I put that on 55, and I do this all the time, on both directions, either faster than the marked tempo or slower than the marked tempo. What I'm looking for is the feeling of the movement of the music, which is one of the primary expressive aspects of any music. In pop music, of course, the movement is very predictable, and generally speaking, is very dependable, and it's a steady beat. So almost everything that's done these days is done with a click track, and done with manipulation of the time. So everything is together, everything's mechanical. And what we're trying to do is get back to more of a human element where we're singing. So what am I hearing from the character of this? Well, I go to that half time because I want to feel like it's moving. Silencio, it's going someplace, right? It's got momentum, it's got a feeling of energy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that tempo. I'm going to play with it. Until I get to the retard. Now I'm going to do that once more. And as I do this, I'll do it over and over again. And I'll do it in ways that I'm experimenting. I'm saying, well, does that work for me? Sometimes recording will help. I'm getting into the feel of the music. So I like that one. I'll give you a little tip for those of you who are practicing for orchestral auditions. What they want to hear is your voice and the music. They're assuming that you know how to play the trumpet. And they're going to be listening, and they're going to hear the flaws that are there. They're going to hear what things you struggle with because you have to play a vast array of different styles and different techniques when you're in an orchestral audition. So the best you can do, as far as the music is concerned, is record yourself. Let's say you're doing pictures, and I'm tempted to do that right now, but I have my B-flat trumpet in my hand, and I can't remember the last, well, I guess it was freshman year in college that I played pictures on a B-flat because that's all I had. But that's another story. You know, if I played pictures, I'll do a recording 10 times. I'll just play it as if it was the only chance I got in an audition. And then I'll calm myself, put myself back in the frame of mind. I walked into the room, I unpacked the horn, and this is the first thing that they hear. So I'm practicing that mentally, as I mentioned briefly before. I did not demonstrate it. And then I play it. And I'll do that without turning the recorder off. Maybe I'll do 10 or 12 repetitions. Then when I go back later, I listen to that and say, well, does that do anything for me musically? When I pay money to hear that, is it valuable to me? Does it say something? If so, what does it say? So this is a process of inquiry, I guess you'd say, and also assessment. You're making judgments about how successful the music is. Now, this is really hard to do with your own stuff. I know, I'm a photographer. When you look at your own stuff, it's very difficult to look at it in an unbiased manner. It may not even be possible. But that's what we're trying to do. And a good way to do that is, sorry for my verbosity today, but I'm starting to feel a little better after my stay in the hospital, we need to get a taste of something and say, is that good? And that's my musical choice. Now here we have two different characters. So I started to get a feel for that first character. I'm going to try the second spot when I have that character. Oh yeah, okay, this is the pickup to tempo primo. I'm going to check my tempo again. And I think you could hear it last time I pushed it a little bit. Now this is only 4 bars of music with a retard at the end. Now, for those of you who are detail-oriented, if you look at the music, you'll see I did the retard quite a bit earlier, just slightly, quite a bit earlier than the retard is actually marked. So I telegraphed it a little bit. I let you hear where I was going with it. And that felt pretty good. So yes, follow the instructions, follow the notations, the directions on the page, follow all the road signs, try not to cross into the other lane into oncoming traffic, but also give yourself freedom. When there are no cars on the road, you can use more of the road, right? Give yourself freedom, musical freedom. So now we have to go back and forth between these two styles. Here's the second style. And I'm going to find I'm going to do the same thing. I'm finding the tempo at halftime. So it's marked 128. So now when you hear that, that's 64, which is half the marked tempo. And that's 55, which is half the marked tempo at the beginning. So you see where I'm going with this? There's not too much difference. It's the feel that you're trying to get. So I'm going to feel that 64 again. Now my point here is not to play exactly 110 and then go right to 128. But it's a really good exercise. That's a great starting point. If you have control to do that so you can make those subtle changes in the tempo, now you're starting to build something in terms of your feel for the music. And that's the most important thing to work on. Yeah, so I remembered it pretty well. That's a good way to test yourself. Can I remember the tempo? Turn the metronome on. Okay, now I'm going to play the second line. So this is, it says, tempo molto rubato e tentativo. Tentative. Yes. What does that mean? Well, it means to attempt something, to try something. So the idea I came up as I thought about this was, oh, this is kind of like, it should feel a little bit like you're putting your toe in the water when you're at the pool to see how cold it is before you actually jump in. And if it's not too cold, you say, okay, that's safe. And if it's too cold, you go, ooh, and you don't know whether you want to just take the plunge, right? So somehow that gets translated into what the sound does here. It doesn't mean tentative like being careful and holding back. It's like, let's see if I can just taste this. I can just touch it. That's another way to think about it. So I think it has to do with just touching. Now, in the middle of that is a line. So here's the line, and then I'll start touching. I played a wrong note at the end. I think I did that on the performance too. I heard it incorrectly. Plus, it goes from one line to the next line, and my eyes didn't catch that I was actually supposed to be playing the same note. I just followed the pattern. Well, that was interesting. I kind of enjoyed that. And I hope you did too. That gave me a sense to feel the shape, the direction, and I started to feel like, oh yeah, I can see how this could move rubato. And for those of you who are not aware, it comes from rubato comes from the word to steal, to rob. So that means I'm taking time from here and putting it over there. It's a little bit different than a piacere, a different Italian word for freedom in the music. Now, don't overthink this. You're looking for the feeling. So I'm not going to try and do everything at once. I had a dynamic change. Now I'm going to try and do the articulation. You see, there's so many ingredients, and that's why I love playing music, because it's like cooking good food. There are almost infinite possibilities. When you find something that works, stick with it for a while and enjoy it. Enjoy eating your own cooking, as it were, when you record and listen back. So now I'm going to try and do this from tempo molto rubato e tentativo. Second line. My brother's going to kill me. He's a professional Italian scholar. He's an expert in the language and culture of Italy. So my pronunciation is probably not up to snuff, but be that as it may, I do the best I can. That's not what matters. What matters is, do you understand how the music should feel? Here we go. Now I'm struggling a little bit, and the reason why is interesting. I'm struggling because I can hear in such fine detail what I want to do with the music, and I'm trying too hard to get all those details that I'm hearing. So it has to be more like improvisation, like it's just coming to me. And right now I'm seeing, oh, I need to play softer here. Oh, that accent wasn't quite. So now I'm thinking in the past, which is never good because the past is gone, right? Except the only reason you should think of the past is like, wait a minute, what just happened? Can I do better? That's worthwhile. But here, I was thinking way too much, and I got a decent result. But now I'm physically tight. So this is one of the ways that I use these little etudes is, can I play the full extent of my musical imagination? Can I play it with an improvisatory freedom every time I play it? So I'm not trying to play exactly the same target in a mechanical fashion. I'm trying to let the life of the music come through, the wind of the spirit, so to speak, to blow through the music. And it's going to be new every time that way, and that's what's great about music. That's what's great about improvisation. So let's see if we can. I just heard my phone ding, so that means I have limited time. I'm going to try and do one more recording today before my client comes. Thanks for your patience with all the chatter, and I hope you get something out of it. If you, what I recommend is that if an idea strikes you, just write it down, and then try and apply it in your practice. So this is a kind of a fun one, but I need to practice it more, and I'm actually inspired to do so, especially the transitions between one character, one kind of life force of music in the one style, and into the other character, that different kind of life that you hear. Okay, that's enough. I'll catch you next time when you're able, and I hope you're enjoying these, and if so, please subscribe and give me a comment or two. Have a great day. Bye-bye.